Having said that, I would like to introduce this morning's keynote, Brandon Slay. He is a freestyle wrestling gold medalist from the 2000 Sydney Olympics. Now that he's moved on from his wrestling career, he is a coach for the Olympic Training Center. And when he's not working, he is husband, father of 4, and really coaching at home. So he's going to talk to us about the lessons he's taken away from wrestling and from coaching and how he applies that to his everyday life. So, Brandon, come up and join us. I should have said it's the best presentation. It is the best.
That's the plan. So let's see. Make sure test 1 2. Test 1 2. Everybody hear me? In the back, we're good. All right. I want to start by just making it really clear from the get-go. Is as Faye introduced me, you didn't hear anything in there about being a software developer. So I want to make it really clear that this message this morning, I believe it's probably going to be unique compared to what you're used to hearing, and I think that's okay. And one of my best friends actually is Bart Murphy. For those of you who know him, I wrestled with him at the University of Pennsylvania. We were teammates together, and I was born and raised in Amarillo, Texas, and Bart was born and raised in Lincoln, Nebraska. So when we both moved from Amarillo, Texas, Nebraska to West Philadelphia, West Philly, right, to go to Penn, there was at least a common bond that we were from kind of the other side of the country, and so we became great friends. And so now, clearly, he's here in Columbus, and he's a great leader. And so he asked me this particular year if I would come speak at this conference. And I asked him, I was like, why would you want me to come speak at a conference like this? And he just said, Brandon, I feel like the lessons you've learned throughout your career, your wrestling career, your coaching career, and now you're running a nonprofit, you're the executive director of a nonprofit, right? You're married with 4 kids. I just feel like your experience in leadership will be beneficial for this group this morning. So I'm going to start by just saying from the get-go, I'm not going to be talking to you about software development. I'm not going to be talking to you about XP. I'm not going to be talking to you about things like that. I am going to be talking to you, though, about what I feel it takes to be the best. And when I say to be the best, I start out by just saying that humbly, I had the honor of becoming an Olympic champion, which for us in the sport of wrestling, that is the best. There's no higher level than that. I mean, you can become a state champion, again, humbly, which I won 3 state titles in Texas. You can become an NCAA champion in college, which, by the way, I lost in the finals twice. I did not become an NCAA champion. I got second twice. But I did continue putting that time and commitment in and was able to win the Olympic gold medal and become the best in that area. And I'm going to be speaking from that perspective this morning. Now as a coach, I have a few of my wrestlers are seeking to become world champions, Olympic champion. One of my wrestlers, Jordan Burroughs, last year, I took him to the World Championships in Oslo, Norway, and he became the world champion. So he became the best. So, again, humbly, now have the honor of experiencing what it's like to coach the best. And running this Olympic Training Center, if you don't really understand the sport of Olympic wrestling, is that for us to be able to pay our Olympic wrestlers, it's all done through fundraising. It's all done through a nonprofit because we can't show up on a Sunday and have 70,000 people show up at the match and pay $200 a ticket. So for us to be able to fund those wrestlers, it's all about raising money. So I'm running an Olympic Training Center. I'm the executive director, and a big part of what I do besides coaching is fundraising so these athletes can essentially be pros. So speaking from that perspective, and then as Faye said, I've been married to my lovely wife, Tina, for 13 years, and I have 3 girls, an 11-year-old, 9-year-old, 6-year-old, and then we finally had a little boy, and Sawyer's 4. So I want to do my best being the best husband and best father I can be. So that's the place I'm speaking from this morning. And if you wondered, why, we're going to talk about that word why and purpose a little bit later too. Why I would want to come here to do this? I would tell you, to be really candid, is because I really do care. I care about you learning these lessons. I care about your futures. I care about you becoming the best you can be in your job, as a friend, as a family member, as a husband, father, wherever you're at in your life. I guarantee if I walked around this room and I said, hey, do you want to be mediocre and subpar at what you do, or do you essentially want to be the best? I think every one of you would say, hey, I want to be the best. That's why you're showing up at a conference like this, because you're hungry to learn. You want to be the best. So this message this morning is going to be, I'm going to break it down into, there's 4 different areas I'm going to talk about. And there's 5 points to each one of them. So there's going to be 20 lessons that's going to come from this. So it's kind of going to be what I call like a 4x5 system. And the 4 ingredients to success: questions to ask, ways to lead, and ways to live. So it's going to be 4x5. And then at the end, there's going to be a +1, big one, at the very end, which is the most important lesson I'll be able to teach you. All right? So let's jump in. So the best ingredients to success. And I'm going to talk about this from the perspective, the ingredients to success is, if there's anybody in here today that had this question, I want to be able to answer it. If you said, Brandon, you started wrestling probably when you were young and winning the gold medal, what were your major takeaways from that? So I want to be able to speak to that. And I call that the best ingredients to success. And so the best ingredients to success starts with number 1, it takes time and commitment. So I started wrestling when I was 6. And by the way, my very first year, I was 0-20. I lost every single match. And I went to my grandmother and cried on her lap, and she told me, I was going to be okay. And that was just my first year definitely was not a successful year for me. But my second year, I continued to wrestle. I was 7-15, had a losing record. My third year, I finally had a winning record. Wrestled my 4th year, 5th year, wrestled throughout middle school, wrestled throughout high school, and clearly started winning a lot more by that time. That time and commitment started paying off. High school, my goal was to be a 4-time state champion. My freshman year, I got 2nd, came up a little short. And then thankfully, those next 3 years, I won the state title. Because I studied hard in high school, had the opportunity to go to the Wharton School of Business, an Ivy League school at the University of Pennsylvania. I went to Penn, I wrestled there. As I told you, I wanted to become an NCAA champion. I got 2nd twice, came up a little short. But after I graduated from Penn, I moved out to the Olympic Training Center, and I trained from 1998 to 2000 for the Sydney Olympics. And then thankfully in 2000 was able to win the gold medal. But y'all are smart enough to see 6 years old, 0-20. And I won the gold medal when I was 25. That took 19 years. And it took that time, and it took that commitment. And by the way, you heard I lost and had some failures, specifically at the beginning, all along the way. And so the first ingredient to success is it takes time and commitment. And again, these things I'm going to share with you today, there's not going to be like, oh my gosh, I've never thought of that before. I've never heard that before. That's not the point. The point is potentially the way I organize these things will be helpful to you in your life and as you pour in to the lives of others. So time and commitment is number 1. And we're in a culture right now, we understand this, that we want everything immediately, right? We text somebody and we're like, I texted you like 8 seconds ago and you didn't get back to me. What's the deal? What are you doing, right? We're hungry, as we know. I'm from Texas. I had a wrestling camp in Texas last weekend, and one of my wrestlers came and we're driving down the road in Dallas. He's like, I think I just saw every fast food restaurant in the world on the street. I'm like, yeah, Texans like to eat. That's right. Fast food everywhere. This is our culture, right? We want everything immediately. Clearly, I remember back when I was at the Olympic Training Center in 1998, and I was in dial-up, right, internet. And you're like, and you get like 3 emails in, that was cool. Right now we get like 300, and we realize like, I can't believe a big part of what I do for a living is to manage my inbox, right? So people ask me what I do. I'm like, well, probably the biggest things I do is I manage my inbox. It takes time. We're not in this culture where everything happens so fast. That's not how dreams work. I couldn't have been an Olympic champion in a year. So that's the first ingredient. Second ingredient is I used to say extra hard work, but I switched this, and I like this. This is unrequired work. Extra hard work, but it's unrequired. And what I mean by that is I think about this athletically, is after practice is over, I may tell my guys, like, hey, we're done. I'm not adding any more structure to the day. But then I'll see my guys go over and start doing work that's not required of them. I'll see them start doing 20 pull-ups. I'll see them doing push-ups. They'll grab a jump rope and start jumping rope. I'll see them get on the bike. I'll see them grab somebody and continue to work on their moves. I just call that unrequired work. They'll call me and say, hey, coach, I was watching this match of the Russian. I was watching this match of the Iranian. I didn't tell them to do that night. That's unrequired work. So one of the keys to become successful is, I say, doing the extra hard work. And that doesn't mean working 15-hour days per se. That just means outside of what you're normally doing, what is the unrequired stuff for you that you're doing? And I've realized in my life that that's one of the big differences. For me, when I was specifically in college, what I tried to do was that 4 times a week, not even 7, 4 times a week, I would do about an extra 15 minutes after practice, unrequired. We're all smart enough to know 15 times 4, that's an hour at the end of the week. Right, 15 minutes the first day, it's kind of like, it doesn't seem like a lot. But then it's an hour, right? Then the end of the month, it's 4 hours. And the season lasts about 4 months. So by the time I walked on the mat in the NCAA tournament after 4 months, I'm thinking I've done 16 more hours than you. That's unrequired. And by the way, that leads into the third point, is believing in yourself. Is that confidence in yourself, that con fide, which means with faith. That word fide means faith. That confidence, that faith we have in ourselves. I don't just wake up in the morning and I'm really confident. That's not how it works for me. My confidence, my belief in myself, it's earned. How do you earn it? Time and commitment. Unrequired work. When you continue to put that time and commitment in week after week, right? Month after month, year after year, and you continue to do that extra unrequired work, it's just amazing how much more confident you'll be. And so that's the third ingredient of success, is believing in yourself. The fourth one is making great decisions. I wake up every single day. I want to make great decisions every day. Do I always make great decisions? No. I mess up. I'm flawed. I make mistakes. All you got to do is, if my wife was here, just ask her. She'll tell you, right? I make mistakes. I have to say I'm sorry. I get aggravated and impatient with my children and raise my voice more than I need to at times because their toys are all over the place. I get frustrated. I step on a Lego and roll my ankle, and it gets frustrating, right? I get upset about things. I get angry sometimes. I have to own those things. Hey, babe, I'm sorry. I spoke to you in that way. Kids, come here. Daddy shouldn't have said that. I apologize, right? I want to wake up every single day and make great decisions, but I mess up. We all mess up. We make mistakes at home. We make mistakes in our friendships. We make mistakes at work. Everybody makes them. That's natural. But what's unnatural is to own them, and we're going to talk about this later, say we're sorry, learn from them, and fail forward. But do you have the desire to make great decisions? And what are great decisions? In my opinion, great decisions are personally for me, I seek to love God and love other people, serve other people. I want to treat other people the way I want to be treated. I want to seek to have integrity every single day, be a man of my word. That word integrity, integer, as we know, means like the oneness. So when I say something, that's what I mean. There's not a duplicity to how I live my life. That's making a great decision. And as we know, as we walk down this path of life, no particular direction, but let's say if we go left, we're making bad decisions, we know that leads to a road of destruction. We make great decisions on a consistent basis, time and commitment, every single day, making those great decisions, we're going to maximize our chance to become successful. That's key. And then the fifth one, best ingredient of success, that last one in this particular section, is using our gifts to the best of our ability. Every single one of us in this room, every single one of you is priceless and special. Every single one of you has certain gifts. I had this gift of wrestling and sports, but a lot of you have many more gifts than I have. But the key is figuring out, what are you gifted at? What are your strengths? Analyzing those and making those strengths even stronger. That's really, really key to life. I mean, if I just spent my whole entire life trying to become an Olympic swimmer, it probably wouldn't have worked out very well. But I realized that wrestling and football were beneficial for me. So one of the keys is understanding what your gifts are, your strengths are, and maximizing those strengths. Right? So this first section, if you'd say, hey, Brandon, you spent 19 years trying to become an Olympic champion. If you would look back on that part of your life, what would you tell me that it took for you to become successful in wrestling? And these are those 5 things. This is the first section, okay? And before I get into the next section, I want to make this really clear at the end. They said I could open it up and answer any question you have. So when I get done with this, just so you know, you may not have any questions, that's okay. But at the end of this, I think Mark's going to walk around and he's going to have a microphone. You can ask me anything you want about anything. I'll be an open book, right? So the first section, the best ingredients to success. Second section, This is the natural progression. When I'm coaching, this is what I ask my athletes. And by the way, I put that as a blank, this first one. Why do I blank? Because this could be like, why do I work this job? Why do I live in this particular city? Why do I want to be a husband or father? Why do I want to retire at this particular age? I mean, the insert here is for you. So again, for an athlete, I may say like, why do you wrestle? And for me, it's why do you coach? Or this morning, it may be like, why are you here? Because I feel like my purpose is to take everything I've learned and pour it into others. When people ask me to do it, if I can, I'm passionate about doing it. So these are I think the most meaningful questions that you should ask yourself. So again, if I was talking to one of my wrestlers, I would say, why do you wrestle? And if you have no clue what that answer is, then it's going to be the next questions 2, 3, 4, and 5 are going to be really challenging. If you have no clue why you do your job, you have no clue why my athletes, why they're competing, why they're wanting to become an Olympic champion, if they don't know that, if they can't answer that, if that's not kind of oozing out of their heart, question 2, 3, 4, and 5 are going to be really challenging. They're probably going to be fake answers if you don't know the deep meaning to number 1. And that deep meaning to number 1, for my guys, if they tell me, if I say, why do you wrestle? And they say, I want to have a bunch of followers on Instagram. I mean, like, well, that's a ridiculous answer. Why do you wrestle? Well, I want to make a lot of money. I'm like, well, you should have chosen the NFL or the NBA. Wrong choice. Why do you wrestle? Like, if they say, because I genuinely love the sport, coming to practice, getting better every single day, and I want to use the gifts that I've been blessed with to the best of my ability while I'm young and while I can. I want to honor God or my family through all they've done for me and do the best I can. That's a good reason, right? Now we're talking. Now we can get into 2, 3, 4, and 5. But that first one's really, really important. Why do you do what you do? Now the next question that you ask, the best questions to ask, and by the way, these are for you, but I would tell you, if any of you, if you have kids or you coach any Little League football or baseball or whatever it is, anytime you're wanting to influence anybody and they tell you they want to accomplish something, I would tell you these questions I'm sharing with you right now are spot on, right on. And there doesn't have to be 82 questions. These 5, this is what I use for my guys who are trying to become the best on the planet at something. But the second one is you say, okay, so what do you want to accomplish? What's your goal? And for my guys, these particular guys, they're already out of college. They're already become All-Americans and NCAA champions. So most of them would say, I want to become a world champion. I want to become an Olympic champion. That's their objective goal. You say, all right, that's clear. You want to be a national champion, you want to be a world champion, you want to be an Olympic champion. So then the next question comes on, okay, where are you currently in the process? So one of my wrestlers, Joey Mckenna, who actually went to Ohio State, he was a 3-time All-American. He was second in the NCAA's his senior year for Ohio State for the Buckeyes. He lost in the finals in overtime, but I coach him currently. And so Joey would say he wants to be a world Olympic champion. On that second question, the third one, I'd say, where are you currently in the process? And he was second in the Olympic trials. He was the alternate to make the Olympic team last year. This last year, he got third. He's been the top 3 wrestler in the nation, in our country, at 143 pounds the last 3 years. So if I say, where are you currently in the process? He say, Coach, I'm number 3. Okay. We're not far off. Right? We're not far off. The next question, though, is, well, what is it going to take to get there? So if you're 10th or you're 50th or you're 3rd and you want to be first, the next question is, well, okay, so what's going to take to close that gap? What are those things it's going to take? And that's where we unpack what it's going to take. Well, for him, he needs to have better training partners. He's wrestling with guys right now. He weighs about 150. The guys he's training with weigh about 180. So as his coach and leader, I need to go out and find him a guy that's closer to his size. That's one thing it's going to take, better training partners. He wants to travel overseas more and get that experience of wrestling with guys from Turkey, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, right? Wrestlers from all around the world. So we need to take 1 or 2 more international trips so he can have that international experience. So when he does make the world team or Olympic team, he's prepared. He wants to get a little stronger. He feels like some of the guys in his weight class are a little stronger than him. So we need to analyze his strength and conditioning program to see how we can add some strength. So again, I could keep going, but the point is when you say, well, what it's going to take to get there, you have to be really honest with yourself, candid with yourself, and realize what are those gaps that I need to fill to get to where I want to go. So where am I currently in the process? What it's going to take to get there? And the 5th one, this is where the rubber meets the road right here. I talk to a lot of people, and it's in some ways they'll rip through 1 through 4. They can tell you about 1 through 4. But you get to the 5th one, that's where the challenge really comes in. What are you willing to sacrifice? Right? Because it's easy to say you want to be, you want to have the title above you. You want to make X amount of money. You want to have this amount of success. You want to be, one of my wrestlers, he says he wants to be married one of these days and have kids. So when I get to number 5, I'm like, well, are you willing to think about somebody else besides yourself? He's been living by himself for a few years. I told him that's one of the worst things you should do. You should get a roommate. If you're telling me you want to be married one of these days, you need to live with like some other guys. So you learn how you need to clean the dishes up in the sink. You need to pick up the living room. You need to vacuum. You need to like not have your room a total mess, because what you're doing right now, you're not preparing yourself really for marriage. So what are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice thinking of other people first? For some people, it's like, are you willing to wake up earlier in the morning? For some people that want to get in better shape, are you willing to wake up early in the morning to make that happen? And a lot of times they are for a week or maybe a month, but then they're not willing to do that anymore. So that's what number 5, what you're willing to sacrifice, to me, that's really the most important question there. Because it's easy to talk about. It's easy to say, I want to be Olympic champion. Get on your phone, tweet out, my goal is to be Olympic champ. That's easy. Tweet out, you want to be Olympic champ? That's easy. But are you willing to get in the wrestling room 5 days a week? Are you willing to do strength conditioning 4 days a week? Are you willing to do the unrequired work and get up and do extra runs? Are you willing to study video at night on your opponents from Iran, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, etc.? Are you willing to do all that stuff? Yeah, it's easy to say something. It's easy to tweet out something. It's much more difficult to actually make the sacrifice to do it. So again, these 5 questions right here, I share these with you today because wherever you're at in your life, if you're a parent, again, if you're coaching at your job or kids, these questions are really important. And again, there's not 80 of them. It's a nice path to take people down, to see how serious they are about accomplishing what they want to accomplish, right? So these are the best questions to ask. This third section I'm going to get into here has to do with, I would say, more about what I really wanted to share today. The first 2 sections I think are very important and reflect how I live my life. But this third section, speaking to you in regards to leadership, I think it's common for some people to think in leadership that the leader is somebody that just stands up tall and maybe barks out orders and is more commanding and authoritarian, and their way, it's either, it's their way or the highway. I would say my experience in leadership and the way I lead my family and the way I lead my team is opposite of that. The way I really seek to lead is I really seek to lead from my heart, showing people that I genuinely love them and I care about them. And that's why this next section, the best way to lead, took this word heart and I broke it down as an acronym. And so this word heart, I think when we pull it apart, really shares, in my opinion, the best way to lead. So the first letter, H, is to hunger for wisdom. That just means no matter how successful you are, no matter what you've accomplished, you don't know it all. You can always learn more. Again, one of my wrestlers, Jordan Burroughs, he's won 6 gold medals. He's an Olympic champion. He's going for a 7th world title this next year. But in the wrestling room, he's constantly asking questions. He's always wanting to learn. He's studying video. He does not think he knows it all. He's reading books. He's asked me, Coach Slade, it's one of the last books you've read. And I'll tell him about a book I've read. He'll read it and we'll talk about it. When he goes on road trips, he's married with 4 kids as well. He's asking me about what podcasts I'll listen to. I'll share certain podcasts, certain sermons maybe I'll listen to, and I'll share that with him. And so this guy is one of the most successful wrestlers in the United States history, but he's constantly hungry for wisdom. And I would say for you, no matter what you've learned, no matter how successful you've been in your life, or do you continue to hunger for wisdom? And I would say part of that answer is yes, or you wouldn't have come to this conference. If you thought you knew it all, you wouldn't show up here over these 2 days. So I praise you for that. You're proving, every single one of you, that you're hungering for wisdom by being here these last 2 days. But hunger for wisdom, again, what are ways that you become more wise? I think leaders are readers. I'm reading 3 or 4 books right now. The best time for me to read is when I'm traveling, or once all the kids are in bed at night. That's when I seek to read. I listen to podcasts, leadership podcasts. I listen to sermons, some of my favorite pastors. And here's another thing that I do, that if you don't do this, I would encourage you to do this. I have people that are older than me, more experienced than me, that have been there and done that, call them mentors. And there's a few of those individuals that I check in with on a frequent basis. The guy, Matt Heidelbaugh, who officiated our wedding, he's married with 3 kids, and he's in front of me, and so I'll check in with him on a frequent basis. He'll call and ask me how my marriage is going, how being a father's going, the lessons I've learned. So I'm constantly checking in with him, kind of as a mentor for my marriage. And then I have a mentor as a coach. One of my mentors is a coach. He's the head wrestling coach at the University of Pennsylvania. He's 60 years old. I'm 46 years old. He's been there and done that. So I'm constantly checking in with him as a coach, as a mentor. So hunger for wisdom is having people that have been there and done that have more experience than you, not every single day, but on a frequent rhythm, checking in with those individuals and having them mentor you and learning from them, listening to them. I think that's a really important way to hunger for wisdom. So that's the H. If you want to be a great leader, you need to continue to learn. Don't just rest on your morals. Constantly want to seek out more and learn more. The second letter here, E, is to expect the best. I think great leaders are positive. Great leaders, they walk into a room and people just kind of, they see them, they ooze confidence. That doesn't mean they don't make mistakes, but you can just see that they believe in what they're doing. And I think we use that term like your attitude, your positive attitude, right? It does control your altitude. We've heard that before, but that's true. Your positive attitude is going to control how successful you become. And so we need to expect the best, because if we expect the best, we have a positive attitude, people are going to want to be around us. That's contagious. And one of the best examples for me that I use, kind of talking to my guys about, in my generation, again, I'm 46, I grew up, I watched Winnie the Pooh. And so, Winnie the Pooh, he'd come out and be like, it's going to be a wonderful day, right? He just knew he was going to find honey. It's going to be a wonderful day. And clearly, a few minutes later, Eeyore would always come along, right? And he's like, oh, it's probably going to rain, right? So it's like, we want to be more like Winnie the Pooh. We don't want to be Eeyores in our family. We don't want to be Eeyores at work. We don't want to be Eeyores in our friendships. We want to expect the best. And again, the world's not perfect. We know we're going to make mistakes. We know tough times are always coming. But how are we going to respond to that? Are we going to respond to that with a positive attitude? So I encourage you to do that. E is to expect the best. The third letter here, A, we've talked about this a little bit in the last one as far as making great decisions, right? But the third letter, A, is to accept responsibility. Great leaders, when they mess up, they accept responsibility. They get up in front of their family. They get in front of their friends. They get in front of the group of people they're managing, some of their employees, their team that they're coaching. And they say, look, I messed up. It's my fault. I accept responsibility for this. Please forgive me. I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to fail forward. And we are going to be better because of it. Some of my favorite interviews, I mean, again, I'm a big football fan too. Some of my favorite interviews that show great leadership is that you'll see this sometimes, but after a team loses, they'll interview the coach, and they'll say, like, Coach, wow, your defense just got destroyed by the other team's passing game. Like, what happened out there? And some of the best leaders, they'll say, it was totally my fault. The coach will go, it's my fault. I did not prepare my team well enough for the other team. I didn't prepare them well enough for that passing game, and I own this loss today. Versus going, I don't know what those guys were thinking. I don't know if they went to bed late. They had their head up their rear. Like, that's not. I didn't tell them to play like that, right? Pointing blame to other people, pushing blame to other people, being a victim. It's everybody else's fault. Great leaders go, it's my fault. I own it. I accept responsibility. It's my job to do a better job of leading here. I think that's what great leaders do. And all of you know, when you've seen that individuals, when you've seen that leaders, it's impressive. Even when they're making mistakes, you're going, that's the great leadership. You know why? Because it's real and it's genuine and it's authentic. And that's who we want to be around, real, genuine, authentic people. So great leaders accept responsibility. The fourth thing here is the R is to respond with courage. In tough projects at work, odds that seem to be unsurmountable, challenging situations, challenging times in our society. When you go fill up your car, respond with courage. Go to the grocery store, go to Costco, and end up checking out, respond with courage. But you have to respond with courage in these challenging situations versus thinking that, man, it's just things are getting worse, times are getting tough, this isn't going to happen, oh my gosh, we're not going to be able to do this. Again, that kind of goes back to the expecting the best a little bit, but it's like, how are you going to respond? Are you going to respond boldly, courageously, that we can overcome this on this team, in this company, in this group, in our family? How are you going to respond? Because we either respond with fear, negativity, hopelessness, or we respond with courage, with a positive attitude. We expect the best. We hope that things are going to continue to get better. We believe in better. We believe in better. Because the opposite of that, right, is that we believe in worse. And it's like, well, then what are we doing? We're just waking up every single day going through the motions. And that's just not an enjoyable way to live our life. And by the way, you're not going to be a great leader if you live your life that way. Respond with courage. And the last one here, I think, is really the most important part of this leadership piece, is thinking of others first. It's so tempting in our human nature to think about me, myself, and I. Growing up, there was actually a rap song, De La Soul, that sang, me, myself, and I, right? That's tempting. It's tempting to want to live our life that way. But we have to fight that. We have to fight that, and we have to think of others first. When I wake up every day, again, it's always a challenge, and I'll own this. Like, it's my first reaction is like, well, what do I want to have for breakfast, and what am I going to do? Me. But I have to realize, like, I've got 4 kids I have to get ready for school. Charlotte, what do you want for breakfast? Sydney, what do you want for breakfast? Savannah, did you get your lunch packed? We got to walk up, girls, for the bus. It's leaving at 8:15. I have to start thinking of them. I do my best to say, ask my wife, hey, babe, is there anything I can do to help today? I get home from work, even though I worked really hard and I'm really tired. Hey, is there anything I can do to help you? Yeah, you could go in there. There's laundry all over the couch. You can fold those clothes. I mean, am I like, yes, I get to fold clothes? Like, no. I mean, it's not my favorite thing on the planet. But if I'm being genuine, when I ask my wife if there's anything I can do, then I'll go in there and I'll fold clothes. Now with 3 girls, it's frustrating because I have no clue like whose shorts or shirts or whatever, but I'm folding, I'm putting them over here, I'm folding. There's 14 different piles because I don't know what girls' clothes go to what, but I'm folding. Towels are the easiest because I know exactly how to do that. Stack them up. I'm towel folding like master, right? But thinking of others first. When I get into work and I walk around my guys, I'm not expecting them to come like greet me and serve me, my wrestlers. My first reaction to walk to them and say like, hey, how you doing today? How you feeling? You kind of like tweaked your ankle a little bit yesterday. How are you feeling? Asking them how they're doing. Asking them what they need from me to best serve them as a coach. Checking on them. A lot of times at night, I'll just send certain texts. If I read a quote or I read something that's encouraging, I'll send that to my guys. I have listserv with my 5 wrestlers, and I'm constantly trying to encourage them, being thoughtful of them, trying to think about how can I help them become the best. I think great leaders think of other people first. And we've heard that term before, but it's being a servant leader. Instead of being this like command, do what I say, commanding leadership approach, I would tell you my experience is the leaders that I will follow anywhere are those leaders that are servants. Those leaders that genuinely, they think of other people first. And I promise you, gang, I think in many ways this is, when they asked me to come here and speak to this particular conference, I think this is really what they were hoping I would share. So I want to spend a little bit more time here. But I promise you, if you want to be the best leader you can be, if you continue to hunger for wisdom and learn more, if you have a positive attitude to accept the best, expect the best. When you mess up, if you accept responsibility and these challenges that will continue to come our way, you respond with courage. And then most importantly, if people sense that you're thinking of them first, the life isn't all about you, they'll follow you anywhere. Ultra important, right? So we got the best ingredients to success. We got the best questions to ask. We got the best way to lead, in my opinion. We got one more section left, and then we got the big +1 lesson towards the end. So we're getting there. And again, remember, I'm going to open up to questions at the end. Now, I wasn't really planning on sharing this because they told me I had 45 minutes. I was going to add this at the end. I don't normally talk about this that much when I speak. But since we're going down this path of the bests, if you were to say, Brandon, what are your priorities? What would you say is the best way to live your life? And these are my priorities. And number 1, I want to be really candid. This is personally for me. Personally for me. That my number 1 priority is my faith. I'm a Christian. That's the way I live my life. That's my personal point of view. I understand people have different faiths. I understand that. But that word faith, remember I said was fide. We get the word confide, confidence. Like, what do you have confidence in? What's your faith in? What's your purpose in? Because again, I'm going to tell you, if it's all about you, I don't think it's going to go well for you. So number 1 is my faith. And number 2 is my family. Yes, it's my wife, Tina. It's my 4 kids, but it's also my extended family. My dad just turned 75. He's still back home in Amarillo, Texas. There's a lot going on, but I made the commitment to fly home from Philadelphia to Amarillo to be there with him. And this isn't to pat myself on the back. I'm just telling you that I want to prioritize being there for my dad on his 75th birthday. One of my best friends lost his dad last week to throat cancer, and I flew back home to speak at his funeral. So I'm thankful that I still get to spend time with my dad. I can still talk to my dad on the phone. So I prioritize my family. It's my immediate family in my home I'm living with every single day, but also my extended family. And I hope they feel that way. My sister's out in Phoenix. She's going through some struggles right now. And it's been taking a lot of time to get on the phone and talk to her and be there with her. It'd be really easy just to ignore it and say, she needs to grow up and figure it out. It'd be easier to do that, but it takes time to prioritize your family. But I'll never regret a second of it. So it's my faith, number 1. Number 2, this is in order, family. And number 3 are my friendships. My friendships mean a lot to me. One of my best friends in the world, he was actually my very first wrestling match. I was 6 and he was 8, and he just pummeled me. He was beating me like 15-0 before he pinned me, right? But I was over in the corner crying. He came up to me and said, hey, I heard that was your first match. He was 8. And I was like, yeah, yeah, you know. And he was like, well, if that was your first match, like, wrestling's hard. You know, can I teach you some moves? And I was like, yeah, you know. This guy, 8, I'm 6. He starts teaching me some wrestle moves. I decided to go join his youth wrestling club at the YMCA. He befriends me. 2 weeks later, he asked me to come stay the night at his house. His mom was a great cook, and he had a trampoline. So I was over there as much as I possibly could be. And when some people say, how did you wrestle that whole first year going 0-20? Like, what kept you going? Like, my best friend's mom's cooking and that dang trampoline, because we didn't have one. So my friendships, I met him when I was 6. I'm 46. Last week I was doing a wrestling clinic in Amarillo, Texas, and he was there helping me set up all the mats for these 100 kids we worked with. I've been friends with him for 40 years. Friendships I had since 4th or 5th grade playing youth football. I went back home. I stayed with one of those guys who's one of my best friends. So our friendships are really important. And one of my favorite quotes, which you may have not heard, and I think I made this up, but maybe I didn't, is that I say, you can't make old friends. You can make new friends. What I mean by that, I can meet some of you today, like I just met Mark, and I'm meeting Faye, and I mean, you can make new friends that you just met today, right? I mean, that's possible. But it's hard to make a friend that you've had for 40 years. You understand what I'm saying? They're priceless. You can't just go make old friends. You just have so many years and experience with them, good and bad times. So value that. Don't forget about that. All right? So faith, family, friendships. And then this is another one of my priorities. I want to give full effort in whatever I do. I don't pick and choose like, well, I'm going to give full effort for this hour, and this hour I'm going to back it down to 50%. And then I'll bring it back up to about 75, and I'm going to come back down to 40 so I don't burn out. Everything I do, and I hope you feel that way this morning. I hope you don't feel like I walked up here giving you this cookie cutter message and like, da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, I want to give full effort at whatever I do. And I realized that that's all I can control. I couldn't control for sure whether I was going to be Olympic champion. I couldn't control for sure whether I was going to be NCAA champion. All I could control was my effort. So I value my effort. And this is how I talk to my wrestlers, is that yes, we want to win gold medals. Yes, we want to be Olympic champions and world champions. Yes, we want the gold, G-O-L-D. Duh. Nobody goes out there and is like, I hope I lose. Like, we don't have to talk about winning and losing so much. Like, it's like a given. Do you want to win? Yes, coach. Duh. So we don't have to talk about winning so much. But what we really talk about is effort. Joey, Jordan, David, Mark, these are my wrestlers. Are you ready to give full effort? Because that's ultimately what you're going to be gauged on, is your full effort. When you walk off the mat, or you end a day, or you end a month, or whatever it is, when you look at yourself in the mirror, can you honestly say, I did the best I could? Best. I gave full effort. And if you can do that, whether you win or lose, then you have inner peace. But when you look back and you're like, coach, yeah. I wrestled, say a wrestling match lasts 6 minutes. I'd be like, I wrestled hard for about 4 minutes. And that last 2 minutes, I didn't. And you're shocked that you lost? Nah, I'm not shocked. It comes back to effort. So what we really value, again, I'm coaching Olympians, and we're not talking about winning and losing all the time. What we're talking about is effort. So that's how I talk to them. But I would say, gang, just in my own life, that's all I can control is my effort. That's all you can control, by the way, is your effort. And I encourage you to give full effort. And here's what ends up happening to me. This is a byproduct, is that I've just learned this. As I get older, I learn this. When I put my faith first, my family, my friendships, and I give full effort, just like right now, I'm telling you, I end up having a lot of fun. I really do. I have fun. I want to live my life this way. But when my priorities are upside down, when I'm confused about what's really important and I don't live my life this way, I would say I have a lot more anxiety, have a lot more worry. There is a lot more negativity that seeps in, and life is not as enjoyable, and I don't have as much fun. So we worked through all 4 of those. The best ingredients to success, the best questions to ask, the best way to lead and the best way to live. And I told you I had one more lesson for you. And this, to me, this is kind of my battle cry. This is what I've learned in my life. The last lesson I have for you is that I want to encourage all of you to go for the gold. And when I say gold, I'm not necessarily talking about Olympic gold. I'm talking about you go for your first place trophy, your gold medal, whatever that is that you want to accomplish. We've talked about that earlier. Wherever that goal is, GOAL, you seek that out with everything you have. So again, then I'm calling that's your GOLD, your gold. You go for that gold. Because you should. You should use the gifts you've been blessed with to the best of your ability. To become the best possible version of you as a leader that you can be. You go for it with everything you have. But here's also what I've learned. Don't do it thinking that once you accomplish your gold, GOLD, that once you accomplish that, then you're like, oh, now finally I've made it. I've reached this like utopia. And I have the gold. And I'm not going to have any more problems anymore. And I'm totally going to be satisfied. And I'm totally going to be fulfilled because I accomplished this. I became the president or the vice president of my particular company, or I made this amount of money, or I got the beach home, or I got the lake home, or I got married, or we had kids, or I won the Olympic gold medal, right? Whatever that is. I think there's this lie in our culture that once you accomplish that gold, that it's totally going to fulfill you. And I've just learned that's not the case. But I would tell you, when I was in high school and college and I was training for the Olympics, there's so many athletes and people that think this way. They think that once I reach that point, once I get that gold, then there's not going to be any more struggles. But I would tell you that's a lie. That's a lie. When I have a bad day, I'd say my wife and I get in we get in an argument, there's friction or just things are going wrong. Here's what I don't do. I don't run into my office at home, like go put my gold medal around my neck and look at myself in the mirror and go, don't forget, stud. You're the man, the myth, the legend. You're the Olympic champion. Right? I mean, we giggle and we laugh because if you saw me do that, you'd be like, that's sad. There's something wrong with that guy. Now, here's what's funny is what we would think that if you saw me do that. But in our culture, y'all know this. People are constantly striving. They're constantly striving for that thing. Whatever that goal is in your life. With a thought, the belief that once they get there, once they reach that point, then they're going to be totally satisfied. And I will tell you, just personally for me, it's not the case. Again, humbly, I've been able to have a lot of success in sport. I had the opportunity to go to an Ivy League school, the Wharton School of Business, graduate finance, degree in finance and entrepreneurial management, win Olympic gold medal, traveled to 45 different countries. I've jumped around with kangaroos. I've swam with dolphins. I have never ran with the bulls, but I don't think that's the key. I'm blessed to have a beautiful wife, 4 healthy children. Right? I could keep going. Coach World Olympic champions. None of that stuff, gang. I've experienced all that stuff. And it doesn't fully satisfy me and fulfill me. There's something greater. There's a greater treasure. There's a greater gold. And if you say, well, Brandon, what is it? And again, personally for me, the best way to live, that's my treasure. My treasure is my faith. That fulfills me. Followed by my family, right? Friendships, full effort and fun. But it starts with my faith. And I'll encourage all of you, you go for the goal, but just realize that there's something greater. And for me, the greatest treasure I have in my life is being a man of faith, loving my family, my friendships, trying to give full effort. And again, by doing so, I really end up having a lot of fun. So I encourage you, when you walk away from this message today, I really hope that you'll commit to doing your best to succeed, that you'll use those questions, the best questions, to challenge yourself, but challenge others. Remember, think others first. Challenge others with those questions. I encourage you to be the best leader you can be by leading from your heart. And I encourage you to really analyze, do an inventory of your priorities and try to see if something that you heard today can encourage you to seek that greater treasure, that greater gold in your life. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Anybody have any questions about anything? I think Mark's back there with the microphone. Yes, sir. And I might be able to hear you if you. Okay. Here you go. Mark's he's gonna build up sweat here. And thanks so much for being able to ask questions. It's that way I don't feel like I'm just kind of like talking to y'all the whole time. Thank you.
No, thank you. No, and Brandon, thanks for coming. Thanks for speaking today. Really appreciate it. Talking about the questions to ask and kind of your journey through life so far. You were talking, you also were thinking about football in addition to wrestling, right? And it seems like the questions asked and the answers, was there a point, I'm kind of curious, in your life where you had to reevaluate those questions? Like if, at a point, when did you decide to go more of that wrestling path versus football? So, when are times during your life where you've decided to kind of reevaluate those questions, or also to, when you're coaching, in terms of when do I need to reevaluate and ask these kids again those questions?
Right. So he's just asking, like, how do you pivot at times based on these questions you're asking yourself? And I think what you do is you have to gather up as much information as possible. So for example, just the football example. So actually I love football way more than wrestling. Started playing football in 4th grade, humbly. My junior year in high school in Texas, I led the state of Texas in sacks. I had 16 sacks, big school. So that was a lot. But I stopped growing. I was 5'8", 185. So my dad was 6'2", and weighed about 280 and played for Bear Bryant at the University of Alabama. So I was thinking, man, I'm gonna hit my growth spurt sooner or later. But my mom's 5'1" and weighs 105. So I stayed 5'8", right? And so I had to step back and evaluate. I would have said I wanted to go play football in college. I wanted to go play for the Dallas Cowboys. Don't get mad at me. I was born and raised in Texas. Don't judge me too much. I live in Philadelphia now, so I miss a bunch of Eagles fans, right? But growing up, that's what I was said I wanted to do. But then all of a sudden, you're a junior in high school, and you get a letter in football from Iowa Community College, University of Nebraska Kearney, in football. And then all of a sudden, again, humbly, I got about 90 letters for wrestling. So I had to make the decision, do you want to be a good football player in college? Maybe very good. Or do you want to be a great wrestler? And so fortunately, back to the mentorship part, I was running that through mentors around me, people that had been there and done that. And ultimately, I had to make that decision that wrestling was my path that created more opportunities for me. So that's how I kind of pivoted off that. But I also think that sometimes some wrestlers come into, we'll use the University of Pennsylvania, for example, and they'll say, my goal is to be a 4-time NCAA champion. And then, their first year, they don't even qualify for the national tournament. So then you kind of have to go back to those goals, and it's not that you're negative with that wrestler, but say, hey, let's just reevaluate these. So you want to be a 4-timer, and you didn't even qualify for the first year. So let's step back and make sure that we have realistic goals. I'm not saying that you can't become a national champion. I'm just saying that let's become an All-American first, top 8, maybe next year, and then maybe we go top 3 or national champion the next year. But let's make sure that our goals are more realistic. So I think you just have to gather all the information around you, and I think that really helps because you're wise in saying a lot of people just want to say, oh yeah, I want to be the Olympic champion, national champion. I want to be own my own 8 companies and be a multimillionaire. Like, okay, but let's kind of like baby step this first, one step at a time. And that's why it's important that one question is like, what do you want to accomplish? Where are you now? I want to be Olympic champion, but you're 87th in the country. Okay, so where are you now? And that question, where are you now, I think helps define more clearly what your goals should be. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for asking. Yes, sir.
How do you help people understand that they have to sacrifice in order to get something that they really want, that is hard? Because not everybody understands that they have to sacrifice something, and they have to really wrap their head around needing to sacrifice.
Woo, man. I wish we could bottle up the answer to that question and just share it with everybody. I think it takes taking them on a journey of failure when they don't do that. And so, for example, in sport, we know that pain is one of the best teachers that there is. Pain is a great teacher, and I always tell people this, that the most nutritious food on the planet is humble pie. And we all need to have a piece every once in a while. And to answer your question is that sometimes we have these athletes or individuals, they could have, I would just call it a sense of arrogance and what they think they're able to accomplish without sacrifice. And majority of the time, it's going to take them failing, not reaching their goals, coming up short, and then having that candid conversation with them of why that happened. Why did you come up short? And their answer is going to probably be this. Listen, they're going to start pointing at everybody else. Well, I didn't get that job promotion because so-and-so did this or so-and-so did that, and they don't know how smart I am. They don't know how good I am. They're going to start blaming other people. That's the temptation. And being blatantly, lovingly honest with them is crucial. Because if they're used to people patting them on the back and always telling them they're part of Team Awesome all the time, that doesn't help them. But there's a lot of times with my athletes, I have to have candid conversations with them and let them know that the reason why you didn't win that tournament, the reason why you came up short is because you weren't willing to make those necessary sacrifices. And you know what? When you say that to them, it's like, ugh. It's painful. But they need to hear the truth. And I think to wrap this up for your question is being truthful to them, being honest to them, but listen, in a way that they sense you care about them, that you really do love them, you care about them, because it's really tempting to be truthful to somebody and be mean. I always tell my wife this, is like, babe, I don't care if you criticize me, I don't care if you correct me, but please do it with respect. Like you can like call me out, you can tell me whatever you want to tell me, but just please do your best to not be contentious, right, with tension. Please do your best to be respectful. Because if you're respectful to me, I can hear it. But I'm going to put this down so I can use nonverbal here. But if you come at me and you disrespect me and you correct me with contention and you kind of let me have it, then I hear that's like you want to fight. It's like, oh yeah, right? And I'm coming back. And I'm going to say something mean. You're going to say something mean, and here we go, right? But if you come at me with respect and love in the midst of your criticism, I can handle it. And also tell her, I said, look, babe, what I've learned as a coach is the criticism sandwich. And what I mean by this is that you start with something positive. You're like, babe, thank you so much for folding the laundry today. That meant a lot to me. I really appreciate that. And then you can hit me with the criticism. But the way you load the dishwasher, like, please be a little bit more thoughtful. You don't put the plates up on the top, right? Plates always go down the bottom. So, and then close it off by telling me, hey, and it really meant a lot to me that you called today and you told me you were going to be a little late coming home from work. I was able to kind of plan better for dinner. So thank you so much for doing that. So here's the thing. She really wanted to hit me with the criticism on the dishwasher. That's what her really kind of motive was, and that's fine. But she praised me for 2 other things that I did, and I would just tell you as a husband, like I have no problem with the criticism sandwich as long as you tell me some other things I'm doing right. Now, if I'm doing nothing right, then that's my fault. But surely you can find something positive that I'm doing right as husband and father. So I think that letting people know about not making the sacrifice, you got to be honest with them, truthful with them in a loving way. I think the criticism sandwich is important, but also being willing then to let them experience failure and have a piece of that humble pie.
Hard, empathetic honesty.
Yeah. And you just used that word empathy, and while we're talking about that, somebody asked me, before, they said, what do you think is the most important value of a coach? And my answer is empathy. That when I can really listen to my athlete, understand them, know where they're coming from, and they feel that for me, they'll run through a wall for me. But if they don't feel understood, they just feel like I'm preaching at them, I don't care about them, I don't understand them, I didn't take the time of day to listen to how they grew up, their family situation, what they're dealing with, right? If they don't think that I'm empathetic whatsoever, they don't wrestle as hard for me. They don't compete as hard for me. And I've heard that a lot from great coaches, that when they just come in, yeah, you could teach great technique, you can have a great game plan, you could have some really talented players, but if they don't know that you care for them and that the team cares for each other, if you don't have that culture, they're not going to reach their full potential. I just listened to a podcast. You guys, some of you probably know this. A guy that I wrestled with, we were in the same weight class in high school. His name is Luke Fickell. He played for Ohio State. He was defensive lineman, nose guard, part of their national championship team. He actually was the interim coach for Ohio State for that 1 year when Tressel stepped down. And then you guys know he's the head football coach at the University of Cincinnati right now, and took them to, they were undefeated. They ended up making the Final Four last year. They lost to Alabama. So very successful person, right? What you might not know about him is he was a 3-time state champion Ohio wrestler, and went to Ohio State and decided just to play football full-time. But I listened to a podcast of his the other day, and he was talking about his very first year at the University of Cincinnati when he left Ohio State, is that they end up having like a losing record. I think they were like 4-8 or something like that. And he said they should only won one game. And he said it was really perplexing because he thought he had a really great team, a really talented team. They put like 6 players in the NFL that particular year. But at the end of the year, what he realized, the major problem was it wasn't the talent, it was the fact that his team, they didn't care for each other. The athletes didn't realize he wasn't being empathetic to them. He wasn't taking time to get to know them. They weren't doing a lot of stuff, kind of team building exercises. They were just kind of going out there, hey, it was all about winning, it was all about playing. But all these other intangibles weren't taking place. So when he started doing a lot more of the team building and he started pouring into his athletes and they realized how much he really cared about them, that next year, I think they only lost 2 games. And then this third year, right, they made the Final Four. So that empathy as a coach, ultra important. Good question. No, that was a really long answer, but that was a really, really important question. How are we doing, Faye, on time? We're done. Okay, listen. Gang, I'll close by just saying this. My website's BrandonSlay, SLAY.com. On all my social media, it's at Coach Slay, SLAY. So if you have any questions or any things I can do for you down the road, thank you very much. I appreciate it.